Hello, my little nutcrackers. Welcome back to the merriest place on the internet. We are here to talk about your Christmas tree topper. Some tips to help your topper be an over-the-topper. Last year I had you send me your trees for just me to talk about them, and you were asking for advice. I'm gonna link it right here. The biggest thing I saw across the board was that your toppers just needed some zhuzhing. What are you, looking for love or something? If you're new here, hi, I'm Kim and I'm very merry. This is Chewy, my assistant. Apparently. I'm just a lady who loves Christmas trees, and I want to help you create the Christmas tree of your dreams. Subscribe for Christmas tree design ideas and tips and tricks and hacks and just Christmas tree love. Christmas tree toppers. The top of your tree, the face. No. My first tip with your Christmas tree topper is to make sure it is not disconnected from the rest of your tree. What do you mean, I hear you say? You know how you put your topper on top of your Christmas tree and there's kind of this space where you can see the topper holder and like then there's nothing and then there's the tree? That's what I'm talking about. It's a floater, if you will. My personal aesthetic just doesn't jive with that. I like to make sure that I incorporate lots of things with the topper and that it's really connected and in the top of the tree, not just set atop of the tree, if that makes sense. Usually I have to use pipe cleaners or wires to make sure that my tree topper doesn't wobble and can really get down in there if it's not on a regular branch that's holding it the way a lot of tree toppers are designed to be. I also like to use unconventional things as toppers, which requires wiring and pipe cleanering to make it not fall down. You don't want your tree's head to fall off. It's very sad. So I guess that would be my second tip, would be to use pipe cleaners and or wires, floral wire, to secure your topper really, really well. He has received a satisfactory amount of attention. Please make sure you secure your topper, especially because toppers sometimes are kind of breakable and you always want to secure things that can break if they fall. I am all over the place with these tips. To help your tree look like it's part of the tree and not hovering above it, I like to incorporate things that are already in my tree. That's my third tip. Take elements that are in your tree and add them in your topper. This will help with tip number one because it'll help your tree look more connected. It can also fill in the space between your topper and the actual tree decorations. And it helps with some continuity of your tree so that the topper looks like it's part of the entire tree design. It's not some whole different thing. For this tree here, you can see that I added some of the florals that are going through the tree. I also added some of the ornament clusters that are in the tree. This video talks about ornament clusters and how I make them, so if you are curious about that. You can add florals from your tree, ornaments that are down in your tree, picks that are in your tree. Anything that's in the tree can also be in the topper. My next tip is that while you're decorating, set things aside that you can put in your topper. So when you're putting in ornament clusters or florals and things, set aside 2 or 3 of them that you can incorporate in your toppers so that you have things to put in your topper. You don't run out as you're decorating the tree. Set a few things aside as you're adding them in and be like, maybe I can put that in the topper. And then if you don't need it, you can put it in the tree later. Tip number 5. I lost count. My next tip is to incorporate your ribbon into your topper. If you have ribbon running down through your tree, the easiest way to incorporate the tree elements into your topper is to make a bow out of the ribbon you are using in your tree and use that as a topper or use that as the base of your topper. One of my favorite ways to design a tree topper is to do exactly that. I will start ribboning my tree by making a bow and putting it in the top and taking that down, or I will take the ribbon that I used and make a couple of smaller bows and turn that into a big bow and use it as a topper, or to put that in the base of my topper and add something on top of that so that it all flows down into the tree and so that it's all one design and it's all one thought and idea and very pretty. Making a bow out of the ribbon that's in your tree is one of the easiest ways to make a tree topper and one of the easiest ways to make sure that it is not separated from the top of your tree, and one of the easiest ways to just have it be part of the tree design in general. If you're not using ribbon in your tree, don't do this. Six tips? 5th? If the other one was a half tip, I don't know why I have to count them. Putting picks in your tree topper upright instead of out can add height to your tree. If you have like a 6-foot tree, but you're like, man, I really wish I had a 7-foot tree, you can. Just put your topper on as high up on the tree as you can get it, fill in the bottom so that it makes sense and it's not disconnected, and then add picks that stick up. You can't see that. Picks that stick up so that it adds height to your tree. I actually got in trouble with this tree because it fits my house in terms of height and ceiling, but the topper really almost didn't. I actually scraped the ceiling a little bit getting that topper on there, so oops. You can't really tell unless you're really looking for it. Keep that in mind when you are decorating a very tall tree, that the topper is going to add height, but that's a good thing if you have a shorter tree and you want a taller tree. Stick picks out all around it so that it grows. Woo! My last tip for you would be to take your topper down into the tree. I know we talked about it not being separate from the tree, but I also like to take elements down in so that the topper is really a lot more than just at the top of the tree. So if I'm doing a bow, sometimes I'll have ribbon tails that kind of fall down into the tree a little bit. If I'm using ornament or ornament clusters, I'll have them kind of trickle down into the tree. Basically, so you can't tell where the tree stops and the topper begins. It's all one blah, 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 blah. That's the best word I could come up with for that. You know what I mean though. I guess a lot of this falls under the umbrella of the make sure your topper is incorporating elements of your tree into that. It's basically another way to do that, or another way to make your topper look a little more thought about and to make sure your topper doesn't disconnect. I personally really like it when my tree topper is a part of the whole thing. It is not a tree topper and a tree. It is part of an entire design. That's why I like to take the elements that I put in the tree and make sure that they are immediately below the topper as well. So it kind of looks like a concentrated version of what's going on in the tree, and then it just happens to all fall out of it. Like a big ball of all the stuff on my tree is put on the top of the tree, and it's all the stuff falling out of it. That is the decorations. I don't know if I'm explaining this well enough, or if it even seems like a separate thing than any of the other tips I gave before, but it makes sense in my pea brain, so we're rolling with it. I love a very big statement topper. I love when it's got a lot of things going on. It's just so fun for me, and it also really gives it that kind of like professional level decorating look. Maybe you like a very, very simple star. Do that, please. You don't have to have an over the topper. This is just how to have an over the topper if you want one. To see how I decorated this tree in its entirety, you can click or tap right up here. For more Christmas tree design ideas and tips and tricks and hacks, you can click or tap right down here. Thank you so much for watching. I really love you. And until we meet again, sparkle on.